Welcome to Calm and Curiosity, where knowledge can be relaxing. Imagine going your entire life without knowing what you look like. Today we're exploring something most of us interact with every single day, yet rarely stop to think about. Mirrors. They hang in our bathrooms, sit in our cars, decorate our homes, and quietly reflect our lives back to us. But mirrors are far more fascinating than they first appear. Their story stretches back thousands of years and includes ancient volcanoes, royal espionage, superstition, science, and even a few ghost stories. So get comfortable, take a deep breath, close your eyes if you'd like, and just listen. Long before humans learned to shape metal or make glass, nature provided the very first mirrors, a calm pool of water. Imagine kneeling beside a still pond thousands of years ago and seeing your own face looking back at you. It may seem ordinary to us now, but for early humans, it must have been remarkable. Some anthropologists believe that seeing our own reflections may have helped shape our sense of self, our awareness that we are separate individuals with our own identities. In other words, mirrors may have helped humans become human. Today we take mirrors completely for granted. They're everywhere. Bathrooms, elevators, department stores, car visors, and even when there isn't a mirror nearby, many of us are carrying one around in our pockets every day, thanks to our phones. The average woman looks at herself up to 30 times a day, and men an average of 20 without even thinking about it. We check our hair, brush our teeth, adjust our clothes, but have you ever stopped to wonder how often people saw their own faces before mirrors existed? The answer is surprisingly little. For almost all of human history, people had only a vague idea of what they looked like. Before mirrors, reflections came from ponds, lakes, buckets of water, or perhaps a polished piece of metal if you were wealthy enough to own one. Imagine trying to learn what your face looked like by staring into a puddle. Not exactly high definition. Many indigenous cultures had little or no access to mirrors until contact with outsiders. There are accounts of people seeing their reflections clearly for the very first time and reacted with shock, fascination, confusion, and even fear. Is it them staring back at themselves or someone else? Because we are so used to our glass mirrors, many people don't realize earliest mirrors weren't made of glass at all. Around 8,000 years ago, people living in what is now Turkey polished pieces of obsidian, a volcanic glass formed by rapidly cooled lava, until they became reflective. These mirrors are older than the pyramids, older than Stonehenge, older than writing itself. Imagine holding a piece of black volcanic glass and seeing your face staring back at you. It must have felt almost magical. And perhaps that's why mirrors became wrapped in mystery, superstition, and legend for thousands of years. By around 3000 BCE, the ancient Egyptians were using mirrors made from polished copper and later bronze. These weren't sheets of glass. They were carefully polished metal discs, often attached to beautifully decorated handles. Mirrors in Egypt were associated with the goddess Hathor, who represented beauty, love, music, and fertility. Because they were valuable and admired, mirrors were sometimes buried with the dead and placed inside tombs as treasured possessions. The Romans eventually began experimenting with glass mirrors around the 1st century. These early versions were made by backing glass with reflective metals, such as lead or tin. They worked, but they weren't exactly what we'd call crystal clear. The real breakthrough came during the Renaissance. Between the 1500s and 1700s, Venetian glassmakers became famous for producing the finest mirrors in the world. Their mirrors used high-quality glass backed with a tin mercury mixture that created reflections far clearer than anything people had seen before. Unfortunately, there was a downside. Mercury is highly toxic. Many of the craftsmen who made these beautiful mirrors paid for their expertise with their health and often their life. Their techniques were guarded as closely as state secrets, and for good reason. A large Venetian mirror could cost as much as a substantial home, a small estate, or several years' income for a wealthy family. Imagine explaining that purchase to your spouse. The reputation of Venetian mirrors became so great that King Louis XIV of France essentially launched an industrial espionage operation to steal the technology. The result was the famous Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. Built in the 1600s, it contains 357 mirrors and was designed to display the wealth and power of France. Then, in 1835, everything changed. A German chemist named Justus von Liebig developed a method for coating glass with a thin layer of metallic silver. This process created mirrors that were clearer, safer, and far less expensive to produce, and for the very first time in history, ordinary people could afford accurate mirrors. It may not sound revolutionary, but it changed society. People could see themselves more clearly than ever before. Fashion changed, grooming habits changed, even our sense of identity changed. For perhaps the first time, seeing your own face clearly became an everyday experience rather than a luxury. Today, mirrors do far more than help us get ready in the morning. Astronomers use giant mirrors to capture faint light from distant galaxies. Lasers rely on mirrors to direct and amplify beams of light. Convex mirrors reduce blind spots in vehicles, and solar furnaces use enormous mirrors to concentrate sunlight. Even more importantly, surgeons and dentists depend on specialized mirrors to see places that would otherwise remain hidden. But now, let's move into slightly stranger territory, because this next fact is one of the creepiest things ever discovered about mirrors. Researchers have found that if you stare at your reflection long enough, typically around 10 minutes or more under dim lighting, your brain can begin playing tricks on you, and you will actually start to hallucinate. People report seeing their faces distort. Some see unfamiliar faces. Others report seeing animals, strangers, or even deceased relatives. The phenomenon is known as the strange face illusion. Fortunately, it doesn't mean your mirror is haunted. Probably. Ever wonder what the world's largest natural mirror is? It's a place called Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia. Covering roughly 4,000 square miles, it's the largest salt flat on Earth. When a thin layer of water covers the surface after rainfall, the entire landscape transforms into an enormous mirror that perfectly reflects the sky. The horizon disappears, the clouds seem to float beneath your feet, and photographs taken there often look like they're capturing another world. Of course, mirrors have never been just tools. For thousands of years, people believed they possessed magical powers. Many cultures thought mirrors could reveal the soul, trap spirits, predict the future, or protect against evil. This gave rise to countless myths and superstitions. The ancient Romans believed mirrors reflected part of a person's soul, and they were the first to believe that breaking a mirror brought 7 years of bad luck, because they believed life renewed itself every 7 years. In several traditions, mirrors were covered after a death. Some believed a wandering soul might become trapped inside the reflection. Other cultures feared mirrors could steal part of a person's essence. When photography was invented centuries later, some people had the exact same concern about cameras. Folklore from around the world also suggested that mirrors could serve as doorways between worlds. That idea appears in Chinese, Japanese, and European traditions and continues to show up in horror movies today. Then there is Bloody Mary. You know the legend. Stand in front of a mirror, say her name repeatedly, and suddenly something terrifying appears. For generations, children have tested this theory. European folklore also claimed that vampires, demons, and witches could be exposed by mirrors because they cast no reflection at all. And perhaps the oldest mirror story of all comes from Greek mythology. A young man named Narcissus became so captivated by his own reflection in a pool of water that he couldn't look away. The story became so famous that it eventually gave us the word narcissism, which means that one of humanity's oldest mirror stories is essentially about a man becoming obsessed with his own selfie. Some things never change. And with that, we've come to the end of today's episode. If you enjoyed today's calming journey, I would greatly appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. Before you go, please share in the comments where you're listening from. I enjoy seeing how far curiosity travels. And if there are topics you would like me to explore in a future episode, I'd love to hear that as well. So the next time you look in a mirror, remember, people once paid the price of a house for that experience. Until next time, stay calm and curious.